Badminton has a shuttlecock problem. Feather shuttles are getting increasingly expensive and, depending on what you buy, aren't very durable. And plastic shuttles don't spin or fly anything like the real thing. But this could be the solution.
This is the Victor new Carbon Sonic Pro, and in this video we're going to test to see if this new synthetic shuttle will be the future of badminton.
Okay, quick backstory. Victor first launched this new type of shuttle made from synthetic materials back in 2017, called the Carbon Sonic No. 1. It was shortly followed by the Carbon Sonic 2, which we have here. And whilst these were, well, okay, unfortunately they didn't come close to traditional feather shuttles, so we, and pretty much everyone else, rejected them. But Victor have had multiple patents on synthetic shuttles since 2016. So what have they been doing for the last 9 years?
Well, in 2023 they launched the new Carbon Sonic, which was a lot better than the originals. But this year they launched the new Carbon Sonic Pro. But are these upgrades enough for it to change the future of badminton? Well, before we put this shuttle to the test, let's smash through some of the specifications.
So the feathers are made from something called an LDPE foam, which has these air vents and small holes in to hopefully help the flight path. Coming down, the feathers are then attached to the cork base, which is the same cork as a feather shuttle, by this composite carbon fibre stem. And yes, you heard that right, carbon fibre, the same stuff that's used in Formula 1 cars.
All of these materials mean that the weight is really similar to a feather shuttle. On our scales, it weighed 5 grams compared to the feather shuttles weighing between 4.8 and 5.1 grams, depending on the model. And when squeezing it, the structure feels a lot more sturdy than those original versions, hopefully helping improve the durability, which we're getting onto in just a minute.
But the most interesting specification detail of them all, they're around £24 for a tube of 12. And we'll put the conversion to euros and US dollars on the screen. Now we'll come back to whether or not this is good value for money after we've tested them. But for reference, plastic shuttles are typically around £20 for 12, and feather shuttles can now cost over £40.
Yeah, but let's move on to the main question. Are these NCS Pro shuttles something we'd actually use and recommend? Well, let's find out.
So for our testing, we've got 4 different shuttles. The NCS Pro, a plastic shuttle, a low to mid-range feather shuttle at £25 per tube, and a top-of-the-range feather shuttle that's used in pro tournaments at £35 per tube.
We're going to put each shuttle through 4 tests. A speed test. Is the NCS Pro speed consistent and correct compared to the others? A durability test. If we hit each shuttle 500 times in a variety of drills, how will the NCS Pro last against the others?
Then an accuracy test. Will we be able to hit better and more accurate shots? And finally, a match play test. How does the NCS Pro compare to the others in a match?
And a quick disclaimer before we get started. We're not robots, so these aren't scientific tests, but we're going to do our best to test each shuttle fairly and consistently.
So starting with the speed test. These are all speed 77, apart from the plastic, which doesn't use the same speed scale. And we're going to test 3 of each shuttle, starting with the mid-range feather. Why is that slower? I thought plastics were faster. So as you can see, the NCS Pros are very similar to the other feather shuttles. Good start.
Okay, let's move on to the durability test. And first up is the mid-range feather shuttle. For this, we're doing 150 shots of rear mid, 100 shots of net tees, 150 shots of defence, and 100 shots of drop push.
We are 290 shots in and 2 feathers have broken.
After hitting the remaining 210 shuttles, the second mid-range feather hasn't broken and has held its shape. But it's gone pretty fluffy, which means it slows down and plays quite different to how a brand new shuttle would. Now it's important to mention here that the durability of shuttles will typically depend on 3 things. One is your level. So for example, if you're a beginner, then you typically tend to miss-hit the shuttle more, which means that you'll break more feathers. 2 is your style of play. So if you're a really aggressive player who likes to hit lots of smashes and drives, then you might break more shuttles. And 3 is the storage conditions. So if you're storing them in a really dry space, then the feathers can become more brittle, which means they might break more. Next is the top of the range feather.
So after hitting 500 shots with the top range feather, you can see that it's a little bit fluffed up, but it's still perfectly fine to play with. So now onto the plastic. And we quickly found out that these are a lot faster than feather shuttles. Even though this was slow in the speed test, because it's so flimsy, when you hit it hard, it just goes really narrow and it goes fast.
So after hitting 500 shots, it looks the same and hasn't broken. But that's pretty much the only benefit of using plastics. We felt our shot quality was so much worse.
Time for the NCS Pro.
Defense.
As you can see, after hitting 500 shots, the NCS Pro has held its shape well, hasn't broken, and obviously isn't fluffy thanks to the foam feathers. But similar to the other 3 shuttles, we hadn't mishit any shots during this test. It's going to be really interesting to see how the durability is when we play matches.
Okay, let's move on to the accuracy test. And to test this, we're going to hit 20 lifts, 20 net shots, 20 serves, and 20 smashes with each shuttle, and see how the NCS Pro compares.
Okay, we've just finished the accuracy test. We found that the plastic shuttle bobbled a lot, and it was really hard to play accurate and controlled shots, especially at the net. However, this was not the case for the NCS Pro, and this was actually what we were most impressed by. We could generate good spin and control on our net shots, like we can with feathers.
Yeah, but sometimes in harder shots, like lifts or smashes, the NCS Pro didn't spin quite as much as feather shuttles. But this didn't actually impact the flight path or accuracy. And on a whole, we probably felt that the NCS Pro was most similar to a top of the range feather, where we could play high quality and consistent shots. But how will it do in the matches? We're back for day 2 of testing and onto our final test, the match play. We're going to play a game to 21 points with each of the 4 shuttles against Dan and Rich. And let's see how the NCS Pro compares. First up is the plastic shuttle.
I can just smash them anywhere. So as you can see, the plastic shuttle is still intact, but that wasn't the best quality game. We felt our touches were not very good, and as soon as anyone got the attack, they could win the point. So that's that one done. Next up is the mid-range feather shuttle. This is already so much better. And after playing the match, we all agreed it was a lot better than the plastic. We had more touch and control, and we could have a lot better rallies. But we did use 4 shuttles. So let's see how the top range feather compares.
As we expected, this was the best shuttle so far, both in terms of the touch and control we had, and also the durability. By the end of the match, we'd only used 2 shuttles. One had only slightly broken, and the second was still in perfect condition.
So in the matches, we've used 1 plastic, 4 mid-range feathers, and 2 top-range feathers. How will the NCS Pro compare? We are so impressed. We only went through 2 and this one broke after a very long rally, and the one we've been playing with, still fine. We also agreed that feeling wise, they were a lot better than the mid-range shuttles.
And considering the price of these is similar to the low to mid-range feather, this makes this shuttle even more impressive. And also, the spin, or lack of spin, that we sometimes felt in the accuracy tests, we didn't notice at all in the match. The only thing that was noticeably different was the feeling of holding the foam feathers when we were serving.
So that's all of the testing complete. Now for the main question. Is this the future of badminton?
Well, with rising costs of feather shuttles, their sustainability becoming a bigger and bigger issue, and the fact that these are actually really good, we honestly think it will be. And it's worth saying here that whilst we are sponsored by Victor, and they kindly sent us these shuttles for testing, they didn't have any input into this video.
If the NCS Pros aren't yet available where you live, then they should be soon. But in the meantime, we'd recommend getting yourself ready for the future of badminton by getting some NCSs. We think these will be great for a lot of club players. We've tested them and they're way better than plastics. We'd say similar to a low to mid-range feather in terms of playability and also durability. To get these and the NCS Pros when they're out in Europe, you can head to our long-term sponsors, Sakura Sport. Lastly, if you found this video useful, please drop it a like, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll see you on another video very soon.